Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to take a stroll down memory lane. We're going to see something that doesn't exist anymore. It actually has went extinct. Hopefully, you will have as much joy in these memories as I do. First, I want to play this. I hope you can hear it and you can sort of get an idea where we're going.
Right. Over 10,000 videos. 3 evening rentals, so no rush, no hassle. Fast checkout. 24-hour quick drop return. Open late every night. Well, the perfect video store. Welcome to Blockbuster Video. Is popping up all over the country. There's one near you. Blockbuster Video. Wow, what difference?
Wow, Blockbuster Video. All right, so here's the deal. Uh-oh. It does that to me every time Siri wants to talk to me. So here's the thing, right? All right, so back in the day, these things were everywhere, right? Blockbuster Video, of course. Now, I'm going to talk more about local video stores, I believe, today, but Blockbuster Videos were everywhere. There was actually one still in Oregon or something. I think there is a documentary out there about this, that it was the last remaining video store in America, right? And it's gone. So basically, the old VHS rental place, the video store where you used to go to find all wonderful types of entertainment is extinct. And that's really what I'm going to talk about today. So without any further ado, this is a Retro Recon. I guess it's no longer a working title. I'm assuming this is going to be the title of this thing. And we're going to go down memory lane. Because once upon a time, there was a place that we could all go and find joy, right? You could really go to these places and you could find entertainment for everyone, literally everyone. You could find something in a video store. Everyone went there pretty much, or you know somebody that did. If you've never been, I mean, somebody you know has. I mean, they're not around anymore because of streaming and stuff, but and we'll get into that. But here's the thing. Around, I would say, 1984, 85, somewhere in there, for Christmas one year, I received a VCR. I was given a VCR, which it was not just for me; it was for everybody. Because I mean, it's not. But it was. I had wanted to have a VCR. Mainly, this is interesting because at that time it was I wanted to record stuff on TV, right? Which a VCR would do. I mean, you could program this thing if you could figure it out. You could program, which it was a little complicated to program it, early on, to record whatever you wanted. If you wanted to record a football game, right? I did that a lot. Or a TV show, or your soap operas. You don't want to miss your stories, right? Days of Our Lives. You got to know what Stefano did on any particular day, right? I mean, totally. You had to do this. So you would record things. You would program the VCR to record. And that's really why that I wanted one, because I wanted to record football games, right? And I thought I would keep them and watch them again, which I kind of did, but not as much as I thought I was going to. But anyway, kind of is what it is. But something that was also available at the time was the video store. Now, what we had in the area where I lived in Fultondale, Alabama, there was a place called Video Xpress. Now, Video Xpress, an amazing place that played a pretty big part in my young life. I went there a lot, actually worked there later, which we'll get into. But so here I am, 84, 85. I have this VCR. Me and my daddy go down to Video Xpress to rent some movies. And they had a deal. You could rent 3 for like $5, or maybe it was less than that, 4.25. I don't even know. But it was, I remember when I worked there, it was 3 for $5.50, which was a great deal. You rent 3 for $5.50, you take them home, you watch them, bring them back. It's as simple as that. Now, you had to rewind those bad boys, because if you didn't rewind them, they would get you. They'd charge you 50 cents. So you had to rewind. Be kind. Please rewind. So it was one of those things. So we go down to the video store, and back at that time, you walked in, and there's all these tapes. It looks like tapes. There were boxes on the wall everywhere, different sections. You had new releases. You had horror. You had drama. romance, I guess. And some stores did have the behind the curtain, adult section, right? So you had those too. Now, those were in a small town. If you walked into the adult section, which I mean, the Video Express we went to didn't have one, but there was one in Gardendale. I remember that was some of you may remember this. That was on I think it was on Tarrant Road, which that's obscure to anyone who doesn't live in this area. And then I forget what the name of the place was, but it supposedly, I never actually witnessed this, but it supposedly had an adult section in the back. I don't know if it did or not, but it's supposed to. Anyway, Video Express didn't. So you had these different sections for all these movies, and they were everywhere. And it was like, wow, this is amazing. Now, so you get your movies, and then you had to wait in line because they had to physically write out what you were getting. They had to write it out on a piece of paper, and they gave you a receipt. So there wasn't any computers or anything like that. I mean, you didn't have that. So literally there was two ways this worked. Either you got a box and you took it up to them, and then they gave you the tape, right? It was like a big tape, a VHS tape. Or you would, behind the movie box on the shelf, you could get the tape itself and bring it up, right? So it was one of two ways. It depended on where you went. There were some that actually had the tape in the box. Those were rare. But normally what you would have is the box out there and either behind the box or you'd have to turn the box in to get the tape, right? So that's how it worked. Anyway, so we went in, and I remember one of the first movies that I rented, and actually is one of, still to this day, one of the, to me, one of the most influential horror movies you'll ever get, right? And my daddy let me rent it. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? Now, this thing back in the day scared the crap out of everybody. Because, I mean, honestly, you can sort of see how that this could be legitimate, right? You got some crazy redneck with a chainsaw. I mean, I've met people that would probably do something like that, right? So, I mean, this I could believe, and and people are crazy and will do crazy things. If you don't believe me, go to Walmart on a Saturday night. You'll see it, right? It's there. Now, that's why Texas Chainsaw to me was just so like, wow, this is amazing. Because these other horror movies that you ran across, like the Nightmare on Elm Street, those, Jason, Friday the 13th, all these were hard to believe. And that little doll, Chucky, my daughter loves Chucky, but come on, I drop kicked that doll. Give me a break with that now. So anyway, this was one of the first movies I rented. And it was so cool. I mean, you got to go home, you got to watch it. You could watch it multiple times, even. So this was a just revolutionary thing, this VCR, right? So I got the VCR. I can go to Video Express, and they had other ones in other towns, right? Eventually, you had Blockbusters that would pop up everywhere. They came up like weeds. In fact, I think the last one closed. I think it was in Oregon. I think it was not that long ago. So these things went extinct eventually. And everybody knows why, because of streaming and things like that. But you miss something because it was a community. When you went to a Video Express, or a video store of anything, you walked in, chances are you would see somebody that you knew because there were people that were there to do the same thing you were, to find some entertainment for the weekend, right? So we want to find a movie we can watch. And, so you'd run into people. And sometimes, and this happened to me a bunch, you would show up to rent a movie because you didn't have anything to do that night. And you run into somebody in the video store. And the next thing you know, you got plans to go out and do something else. So, I mean, it was a community thing. It was really a lot of fun. And, today I know the young people do what they call, what is the Netflix and chill or whatever it is. And I don't know what all that means, but I think, you watch a movie on a date or something. I don't know. So anyway, back in the day, a lot of times you would take a date to the video store, rent some movies, and that's what you would do. You would go back to their house or your house and watch the movies. I know it sounds, boring by today's standards, I guess, but that's kind of what we would do. You find these movies, and here's the cool part about a video store. All right, now, and anyone who's ever experienced one would know this. So if you walk in the store, one of the first places you go is the new releases, because that's, the main movies that come out. Now, there's a trick to this because, it depended on how many of the new titles that the store itself could buy and had available for you to rent, because it wasn't guaranteed you would get to see Jurassic Park or What About Bob? I remember that was a big one. Or whatever new movie just came out, right? The Dances with Wolves of the world, or anything like that. Back to the Future, whatever the movie was. If it came out and it was new, they would get X amount of titles. They would tapes. So if you got there first, you could get it, and then you would watch your new release. And that's how you saw the movie. If you didn't see the movie in the theaters, you had to rent it when it was available until it became like, everyone had sort of seen it and things. Otherwise, you had to wait till it came on TV. And that, who knows how long that would take. I mean, if you had cable, potentially, you could see it on one of your movie channels. But now you walk in, new releases. Are there the ones you want to see? Are they available? Now, you would think if you didn't get a chance to see your new releases, right, or you didn't get a chance to rent one of those brand new movies, that this would be a disappointment. But guess what? That's only when it got interesting, because if you had to, divert yourself and move on to the other aisles, then you got into everything. I'm telling you. And what I mean by that, there were some obscure titles in these stores that were, if you got down the horror section, my goodness, some of the things you would run into in the horror section in these stores, like, what was it? Chud, if you remembers that. The Stuff, that was another one. Some of these that never would have made it. Puppet Master, right? Those kind of movies, right? You'd run into these things, and some of them like straight to video. Really cheesy horror movies, but people would rent them and go home with them, and they were just, just awesome. You just love them. And then you, not only in the horror section, but some of the drama section, right? And I'll say this, because later on, I got the opportunity to work at a video store. And I always tell the story that, me and Quentin Tarantino have that in common. We both worked in a video store and were able to have access to all these movies. Now, it took him to be a world famous director, but it didn't take me there. I'm not a world famous director or world famous anything, I guess. But I did watch a lot of movies. So I was able to, we had to go around. All right. So how this worked, we got to go around, and one of the things we had to do in the video store as an employee was straighten up the tapes, right? So while you're straightening up the tapes, you actually get to observe all the different movies that they actually have in these places, right? It's like literally today, if you go on Netflix and see all these titles, this would be like having them in one room. Like literally you walk in a room and these movies are physically there. You pick them up and you can look at the box. And these boxes, let me tell you, the marketing people behind some of these boxes, or, the pictures on the boxes were awesome. Because some of these they would just draw your attention in, right? You had to go see this, had to see this movie. So it was a lot of fun to journey into these areas that weren't like normally traveled, right? Most people would go in and, try to get the new release. But if you didn't and was able to get to these areas, you came across some treasures, some movies that most people have never heard of, and you would find them. But also what you would do, like I did when I was working for the video store, is you got to experience some movies maybe that you missed. Some old, that's where I first got introduced to Mean Streets, right? From Martin Scorsese, Taxi Driver, stuff like that. First time I was able to see some of these movies because I never had watched them before. Some old Westerns as well. The Searchers, which I love, and I think is the greatest Western that's ever been. Anyway, we won't get into maybe a podcast for another time. But you find these movies, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Come on. Okay. So I had seen parts of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid when I was growing up. But until I worked in a video store, took that home, because we got free rentals too, by the way, which was really cool, because you got to take, X amount of movies home overnight, bring them back next day, stuff like that, free, which was really cool because you had to watch all kind of movies. Movies maybe you wouldn't normally pay for, but you got to take them home. Anyway, Butch and Sundance was revolutionary. A great movie. Still today, tops my list. I mean, it's probably my favorite movie of all time. Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. If you've seen a buddy movie today, like you have two actors that are like, playing off each other through the whole movie, and then they kind of go back and forth, and it's this comedy thing. That's where it originated with Butch and Sundance. It is really that good. Dances with Wolves. That's another one. I try to teach myself how to speak Lakota by watching this movie. Now, I will say, as a historian, I have to mention that Kevin Costner, maybe there was some issues with some of the things he did as far as, the Native American languages and stuff. I won't go too deep into that, but I sat and watched this movie, fascinated by it, and I learned how to say a phrase in what I thought, which I don't know that it is or not, but it's Shumani Tutanka Owachi Anichi Nielo. I still remember this. This is the effect these video stores had, right? That's supposed to mean I am Dances with Wolves. You're not worth talking to. But you see, watching these things were wonderful. I mean, it was a good time for everybody. And the entertainment value was off the charts. Everything was there too. You had snacks. You could rent VCRs at one time. And then the closer you got to the 90s, you actually could rent like Sega games and Nintendo and stuff like that, because gaming started to become even more important to people than it did before. So they had like game rentals, and you could rent the actual game systems and take them home. And it was really a moment in time that you will know. I mean, if you've never experienced it, you won't be able to now. I mean, because it's never coming back. I mean, that's one of the things that will never actually come back again, because today everything you want is either on your phone, right, or on your TV, smart TV. You can get anything you want. But back then, you had to actually go down to the physical store, right, brick and mortar, walk in, and find your movies. You had to, travel through, and you would go through all kinds of things, right? So I did want to, while I'm on this, because I think this is a important topic to get onto here. I wanted to talk about a few specific video titles that were important to me and were like, and maybe they will be to you as well. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that is kind of interesting when you think about it, right? All right. So let's start with the one that I think a lot of people, it was risky to rent this one. And most people were like scared almost to rent it because it was supposedly banned in 64 countries or something. I may have the number wrong. But it was a little movie called Faces of Death. Now, and they had multiple of these: Faces of Death 1, 2, 3, Faces of Death 3, and here is the thing behind this, right? All right. So the idea behind this movie was you had this guy who was a coroner or some type of post-mortem doctor, something. He does autopsies is the idea. He's that kind of doctor, right? So he allegedly, this guy was going to go around and show you all these different faces of death, and you could see actual like people dying and things, right? Now here's a spoiler for you. None of it was real. Now, we didn't know that at the time, right? I mean, because there's a scene in this movie where they get a poor little monkey. Now, if you know about this, you already know Faces of Death. They got this little monkey, and the idea was that these people were on this like vacation, this thing, I don't know, this vacation where they were going in this, and it was some kind of thing you did where you would, I don't even know if I should say this, but you would eat the monkey's brains. It sounds terrible, and it is. But the idea was that they had to get to that point. I'll spare you the gory details, but the whole thing was fake. It wasn't even a real monkey that was in this thing. All the death scenes they had, fake. They actually had an alleged execution that they showed, a guy getting electrocuted in the electric chair, totally fake. The whole movie was fake, but we believed it. it was like, wait a minute, this is so cool. This is like where, it's forbidden, right? So this thing became like a cult classic, this Faces of Death. It was everywhere. And it was so successful, they made several more. They were all fake. I mean, every now and again, you would have like, a half real story that they would show some real clips from, or some kind of disaster they threw in there to like make it look real. But anything that they had that was supposed to be like the footage of something happening, like really bad outside of the disaster stuff, it was all fake. It was not real. So Faces of Death was one, and a lot of y'all know you went out to try to rent this thing, and you would rent it and everything, and anyway, Faces of Death, that was one. Now another one that really caught a lot of flack at the movie theater, right? All right, so this was when I was working at Video Xpress. It was 91-ish, I think, was when this movie came out. And it was Bruce Willis, who I love Bruce Willis. Everything Bruce Willis is in, I have enjoyed, right? I'm, Die Hard is a Christmas movie, right? It's one of the best Christmas movies, yippee-ki-yay. So he made a movie called Hudson Hawk. Now, Hudson Hawk caught all kind of flack, and they said it was this bomb. It was terrible. It lost all this money. It was a garbage movie. Guess what? It's not. It's a really good movie. It is today is considered. I mean, they're reevaluating this thing, and a lot of people have. It's a cult classic now. People will get it and look at it and everything, and it is. One of those movies that you look back on and you're like, wait a minute. I mean, this was really good, and I loved it even then, right? I mean, we got to take home. Okay. So, and you can still do this at movie theaters, as a matter of fact. They will give you the posters if you ask them, and it's available and somebody else hadn't, claimed it. Posters or the different like displays they have for these movies. They will give them to you. So I took home the Hudson Hawk one that we had at Video Express, and it had him, swinging on a rope or something. And I had that up in my room for years, right? And that also I took home there was a movie called Stone Cold, which I should probably put on this list too. It had Brian Bosworth, the Boz was in it, and it was based in Mobile, Alabama, or it started in Mobile, Alabama. And he played a cop and the whole thing, and it was a complete. I mean, this movie was pretty terrible, but I liked it. And I got that poster of him sitting on this like Harley Davidson that was all tricked out. It was pretty cool. But you had a lot of these. There was another one a poster I got. V.I. Washkowski had Kathleen Turner, which I love this movie, and it was a bomb. I liked a lot of movies that weren't exactly 100% successful at the movie theater, but that's just, I'm a little bit different, I guess. Anyway, so you got to take these things home. And Hudson Hawk was, I love this movie. And today people are reevaluating it. So if you haven't seen Hudson Hawk, or you think that it is a trash movie because of what you remember from like 1990, don't. Go watch it. Watch it now and see what you think about it, because I thought it was really good. Anyway, Hudson Hawk on my list. Now, another one. This one is pretty significant because it led to some interesting events in my life, and it's called Witchboard. Now, the horror movie section, like I mentioned earlier, was insane with all these movies, right? Witchboard was based on a Ouija board, right? So it had dude from Days of Our Lives in it, Steve Patch. He was in it. Anyway, and I think Tawny Katane from Whitesnake Videos, that she's on the car. I think she passed away not that long ago. She was in this too, I think. I'm pretty sure she was. Yeah. Anyway, Witchboard. It was a Ouija board, and they had this like spirits come after them and all this stuff. It may have been witches. I can't remember, but it was pretty at the time when it came out. This was in the late 80s, I think. It was pretty influential for a lot of reasons, but it led us, oh gosh, I can't believe I did this, but I literally went up to a cemetery. I grew up at my home in Fultondale was by a cemetery, Walker's Chapel Cemetery. And we went into the cemetery in the middle of the night on a dadgum Ouija board. It was stupid. Because even if you don't believe in all that, but it's still, you don't want to mess with stuff just in case, right? Anyway, so that's another one that is on the list. It's pretty significant. Now, I will say there are a few other ones that I want to get into that are kind of side notes. Dazed and Confused, outstanding movie, came out in the 90s. This one I found it on VHS originally, and I love this movie. It really reminds me a lot of growing up, and I know it does a lot of people. Dazed and Confused was amazing, and the cast was amazing, really good. And another one that I also found on VHS that is probably one of my favorite movies of all time is The Big Lebowski, right? The Big Lebowski is fantastic, wonderful, an amazing movie. And if you don't like it, well, that's just like your opinion, man, right? The dude abides. Anyway, so one more movie, and I'll shut up about this because I can go on and on and on about the movies that we used to do and or see. All right, so when I was working in Video Express, we were able to put movies in the VHS to play in the store, right? So, and if you were good at this, a lot of people would come by, and as they were renting movies, they would notice what you were playing, and they would want to rent that movie that you were playing. What is that, right? They'd never seen that before. What is it? And this was kind of, it was, I don't want to say it was a competition because it really wasn't a competition, but it was for me like a personal thing. It's like if I wanted to find a movie that was kind of obscure that people may not have heard of, but you see it on the screen, and you're like, wait a minute, I want to see this. Well, there was one that I used to put in, and every single time I put this movie in, people asked me to rent it, and I had to stop the movie because they only had one copy. I had to stop the movie, take it out, and they would rent it. And that movie was Rhinestone with Dolly Parton and Sylvester Stallone. Now, if you've never seen Rhinestone with Dolly Parton and Sylvester Stallone, you got to watch it. Sylvester Stallone tries to become a country singer, and Dolly Parton is teaching him. And there are some scenes in this movie that are absolutely hilarious. And those were the scenes that when they would come on, people would stop and laugh and say, what is this? So you've got Rocky up there, Rocky Rambo. He's up there playing a guitar. Well, I don't know if he's playing guitar, but he was trying to sing, and it was just absolutely hilarious. So that's the kind of thing that you would run into in a video store. And I used to love it. Not only did I go there when I was, growing up through high school, you'd rent movies. I worked there, and I got to watch all these movies. It was a great place. It's unfortunate that they're not around anymore. Now, I know today you can go on Netflix, right? And you can, pick out any movie you want, really, and watch it. So, technology is wonderful. All you got to do is hit a button now, and it's the same thing. It's really kind of the same thing. It's not as, you don't have to interact with people as much, which is unfortunate because that was part of the fun, seeing people you hadn't seen in a while, because you always would when you went in there. So that part I miss a lot about the old video stores. But the world keeps moving and everything, and it started slowly because Netflix at first, and some of you know this, Netflix originally would mail you movies like you would rent. So you would actually, and this is when they switched from the VHSs to the DVDs, right? So you went from VHS tapes to DVDs. The DVDs were, they were a big deal, and of course you could rent them just like you could the VHSs for a while, right? And you could get in touch with Netflix, and they would send you the DVDs in the mail. Then you would, watch them, and you would send them back, and it was just sort of how you would do it, right? The only thing that's like that today, I guess, is those Redbox things, I think. They may have other stuff that I'm not aware of, but that's how it started, and Netflix would evolve into what it is now, which is a pretty big deal. But I will say this, to leave you with this, the VHS thing coming back. It really is, because my daughter, for a matter of fact, she actually has collected video VHS tapes, old VHS movies, and she has her nana gave her a TV with a VHS like in it, and she watches these things. for real. So there's still people out there that love the VHS, just like a vinyl. I think it's a similar way. People love vinyl, love the sound of vinyl. Some people really love VHS and the nostalgia of it. So anyway, but the video store went the way of the dodo. It is now extinct. I don't think there are any left in the world. There may be, but I don't think there are any, if any. But it was a time in history that was pretty amazing. And I hope that you maybe took a stroll down memory lane with me here. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Have a fantastic day.